So in the past couple months, I've posted a few videos on YouTube where I do artist recreations. So I take the musical style of an artist that we all know and love, and I make a song in that style. And in these videos, I really try to keep the focus on my artistic decisions, how I come up with ideas and things like that, rather than the more technical elements. But I've gotten a lot of comments telling me, dude, please show us your vocal chain. So I'm not just going to do that because that's boring, but instead I'm going to do a video that's a little bit more focused on mixing and processing specifically for vocals. So for the purposes of this YouTube video, I am saying that there are 3 different types of indie vocal layering and processing methods. Obviously that's bullshit. There can be a combination of these types or whatever. There's no rules to anything, obviously. But I do find that if you take an indie folk song, you can often categorize the way the vocals are recorded and processed into one of these 3 categories. You also might notice, if you've watched my videos before, I'm in a new space. If my voice is very echoey, sorry for that. I don't have any acoustic treatment up yet, as you can see, but yeah, I'm really excited to be in this new space, and there will be a moving vlog and a studio build video coming. And of course, more recreation videos will be coming very, very soon. But for now, let's get into it. Here are the 3 different types of indie vocals. Make it so we get close to leaving. Okay, so first up we have the Bon Iver / Novo Amor vocal layering technique, and I will be using my Bon Iver recreation video as the example for this. So kind of the crux of this vocal layering style is that you have 2 leads which are panned a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right. You can experiment with that. You could go hard left, hard right. You could go less than I have. All of those are valid options. Sometimes that is it for, I think, for the Novo Amor style, especially. That's basically it. It's just those 2 leads, and then obviously, you know, layers and harmonies come in later on. But for Bon Iver, there's always more than just those 2. In this case, I start off with 5 layers here, and then I have harmonies come in, and we get up to up to 11 layers by the end. But yeah, that's kind of the range of layers in this style. My vocal chain is so simple, and to be fair, I think since I made this video, I've gotten like better at mixing, and I've gotten some new Universal Audio plugins and stuff. Like I would probably mix this vocal differently now than I did, what was it, 3-4 months ago. But this is literally my vocal chain. So I have this this mic over here, the Universal Audio Sphere. It has basically these emulations of all the different famous microphones in the world. It's super cool. It's a great microphone. Go check it out. So I'm using the Telefunken Elam 251 emulation for the leads because they're very, it's very round. It's very silky. It's just this beautiful full sound. So that's what I've gone for here. By the way, both the left and the right lead have the exact same processing on it. They're meant to be identical anyways. They're kind of meant to formulate one. A less CPU intensive way to have done this would be to just route the 2 of these to a single track and then routed that single track to the vocal bus. I just copied over all the processing because no, and I did have CPU problems in this project. So that was just me being dumb. Don't do this. Route these 2 to a single track and then do this processing chain on that bus. Don't do this. I'm stupid. Again, this is why I don't show my chains. So that we have the pitcher, the auto tune, D major, little under medium speeds. Don't really hear the tuning, but it's definitely there. EQ. High pass filter, everything above 80 hertz, and I'm actually taking away some presence. So already this is, you know, these are not super shiny vocals. So yeah, I'm just really burying them back in the instrumental layer, and this is the simplest way to do that. Take away something 2 to 5K. That's where a lot of the presence lies. LA2A compression. Let's see if that's actually doing anything, because sometimes I slap on compressors just to bring up the volume. Okay, we're doing 2 to 3 dB of peak reduction, so the compressor is actually acting. And then de-essing, same as always. I always do 2 de-essers for the S and the sh sounds because they live in different frequencies. And yeah, that's the vocal chain. In terms of the doubles and the harmony layers, there's literally nothing on those. I have a little bit of EQ on the doubles. It's the same EQ. So the doubles are just the same without the de-essing and the compression. And I'm using a different microphone emulation. Yeah, I'm using the 12, which is a slightly brighter, thinner sound, because I just when you have so many layers of harmonies, you want them to, it's easy for them to be boomy, and you just really don't need that much presence when you have that many layers. And this fact is why Justin Vernon used this technique, right? He only had that single Shure SM57 available to him, and when you record a single lead vocal on that microphone, it sounds like crap. But when you layer up a bunch to create a chorus of yourselves, like Justin did on that first album, it sounds really, really cool. So yeah, regardless, super simple stuff. The last thing is reverb. So I think as always, I have two different reverbs. There's a reverb for the leads and a reverb for the backing vocals. So yeah, the bus of the leads, which contains the two vocal leads, the center vocal lead, so that's the third one there, and then these first set of vocal doubles. So there's 5 layers in here. Those go to this vocal bus, which then go to the lead vocal reverb. This has like a 3-second decay, so it's a pretty big reverb even just for the leads. And then, yeah, the harmony layers go to a separate reverb, which is going to always have a longer decay. In this case, 4-second decay, not too much longer, but it's a slightly bigger reverb sound. And I always use this plugin Realm for my reverbs. I've started using, I think, Little Plate by Sound Toys a little bit, but Realm will always be my favorite reverb. And yeah, as a reminder, here's the sound with the full arrangement. Okay, editing Lucas here. I'm realizing that this video has like a thesis that I basically just didn't say in the video. I think the reason why I just don't like that, oh, what's your vocal chain question, or especially when people are telling me like, we need to see your vocal chain or else this tutorial is like, the reason I don't like that is because like my vocal chain is so simple, and I don't think that is what creates this sound. I think it's the ways I've layered the vocal, and it's the artistic intention behind it, and it's the way that the vocal works with all the other instrumental layers. And it's just like that story of Justin with that single mic in the cabin in the woods, right? It was his circumstances that created that vocal sound, not a processing chain. So I just wanted to say that, and I think that's true of all of these 3 examples that I'm going to show you. I know it might swallow me. So, vocal layering method number 2. The first method, it sounds amazing, but it is very indie, and sometimes I've tried to use it on my songs, and it's just clearly not working for that particular song. And yeah, it's a very specific sound. It's not always going to work. So this method is very much a happy medium between that really wide ambient sound and just the more traditional, vocal down the center, up front, vocal-centric kind of thing. My favorite example of this is from the album 100 Acres by Carey, which is one of my favorite indie folk albums. It is like the epitome of that lush indie folk sound. And this really is just the best of both worlds approach. So you have the lead vocal down the center, and then you have vocal doubles panned, usually, I believe, hard left and hard right. And if you hear it on its own right here, this is the beginning of the song when it's just the main vocal and those 2 doubles, you'll hear that the main vocal down the center is what really dominates everything. I could have sworn I felt it slip across my skin like water, drip along my shins like summer. That being said, when you take away those doubles, it sounds very different and a lot less wide. Slip across my skin like water, drip along my shins like summer. So it makes a big difference, especially those like shinta sounds. Like they're always going to be a little off, even though if you look at the waveform, it's pretty tight. I've sung these all very, very similarly, but it's always going to be a little bit off, and it's those slight discrepancies in timing that creates the width. All that being said, though, the average listener might not even realize that there are multiple layers of vocals in here, so it just has that illusion of width. When I was first producing my own music, I was often referencing it against that Carey album and trying to get that vocal sound, and I don't know, it took me so long to realize that, oh, I need to record multiple layers of my voice, which is why my voice doesn't sound nearly as wide. So there you go. Another great thing about this vocal, I think it just lends itself so well to like the kitchen sink approach when it comes to indie folk production, just like so many layers of cool stuff. And you can see later in this song, like it's like the end of the second verse, I have these 3 layers, and then I have 6 layers of harmonies. This is 3 different harmonies, each of those double tracked and panned, and then I have all these like choral ooh sounds in here as well. Here's what that sounds like when you get to this point.
My hands are cold, moonlight shining through my fingers, slimmer than they've ever seemed.
So yeah, it's a big layered sound, which I am just addicted to. So the way I've processed this, this is a project from like a year ago, by the way. So the way I've organized this makes me, oh my God, all of these tracks have the exact same processing on it. Don't do this. It's so CPU intensive and it's so stupid. Just if you have the exact same processing on, and in this case 6 tracks, just route those to a bus and put the processing on the bus, please, I beg. And really, you'll see this vocal chain is very similar to the last vocal chain, and it's very similar to the vocal chain in the third method. I'm using the exact same microphone emulation as I did in the Bon Iver style. Some auto-tune, of course. EQ here, I'm doing a slight boost around 150, and cut here, usually I do my cut around like 2K or so, but I've done it differently there. And then my boost of presence is usually here, but it is what it is. And then I've added some air on top for my particular voice. And when I was recording in my previous space with this microphone, this is usually what my EQ curve looks like for my stuff. And this is a pretty common kind of thing. You're going to get rid of a little bit of boxiness and stuff here. You're going to boost a little bit of presence in the lows, a little bit of presence here in the 2 to 5K range, and then just a bit of air on top to make it shine through. Pretty common. Not always the solution, but that's what I do. LA2A, let's do the test and see if this compressor is actually doing anything or if it's just for show.
My hands are cold.
Okay, passes the test. We're doing about almost 4 dB of gain reduction there. So this compressor is doing its thing. It's doing some peak reduction, bringing the level up, and it's it's really adding. It always adds that LA2A color. I can't mix vocals without an LA2A. Then we have the Warmy EP1A. Nowadays I use Pultec EQs mainly, but I don't scoff at this at all. This is a free EQ plugin, and it's brilliant for tonal shaping. So yeah, boosting and doing a slightly more narrow cut in the bottom. That's at 400 Hertz. 10K, little cut, big boost. So yeah, this huge boost here at 10K is really bringing the vocals to the forefront, which is very different to that previous style. This lead vocal is, well, it's processed like a lead vocal normally would be, as opposed to the Bon Iver style. Then my usual de-essing, 1 de-esser for the S's, 1 for the sh, and some fresh air at the end because I wanted to pop just that much more. Yeah, in terms of the doubles, there's just less going on here. I've just taken away the Warmy EP1A and the LA2A. Similar thing for the harmonies, and then when you get to the reverbs, there's actually 3 because I have a dedicated reverb for the oohs, the choral vocals, and this one has only a 2.4 second decay. Backing reverb is always going to have a longer decay, 4 seconds, and then the main vocal reverb is going to have, let's see, 3.2. Okay, so it's a pretty big reverb on the main vocals as well in this song. But yeah, routed those all here. And as always, I don't know if I showed this, but I do some form of Abbey Road EQing. Sometimes if I want the reverb to shimmer a little bit, I'll actually leave in some of the highs, but usually you would roll this off entirely for the Abbey Road EQ method, which is where you just EQ a reverb as such. And then some stereoization to make the reverbs a little bit wider. That's always pretty much how I process my reverbs. But yeah, I just want to say one more time, take all this mixing with a grain of salt. The final released version was actually mixed by a professional engineer, Charles Henry Voke. He mixed all of my solo music. He's a phenomenal mixing engineer, so if you're looking for one, I really recommend him. And yeah, when you send stuff to mixing, usually you take off a lot of the processing. I took off my compression and tonal EQ and de-essing and stuff to just let him do it better. But yeah, all that said, here is what this sounds like in the full context of the song.
Feet are warm. Come revel in this tender scene with kerosene surrounding me.
Scrub out the stains in the carpet. Weed out the mess we don't
So this is the third type of vocal layering, and from this I'm using my Phoebe Bridgers recreation video as an example. Phoebe Bridgers does this kind of vocal layering technique a lot, but that being said, she is definitely not the only one who does this. Now, the previous two techniques that we looked at also had leads and then doubles, but those were panned around the stereo space in different ways. For this one, you're going to have leads and doubles without any panning at all. So if I isolate the lead vocal and the two vocal doubles, they're all right down the center, and it sounds something like this.
You're the only one who waited. You're the only one who watched.
So in terms of the vocal performance, the three layers are rhythmically pretty tight. There isn't a lot of discrepancy between the three parts in the way they're sung. But regardless, you're never going to sing the same thing exactly the same way 3 times. So there's always going to be a little bit of like a chorusing effect, which is what we're going for here. In contrast, here's what it sounds like without the vocal doubles and just the lead.
You're the only one who waited.
And with the doubles?
You're the only one who waited.
So I did a little experimentation when it came to mixing these, and I did find that leaving one vocal as the lead in terms of how you process it is a bit better rather than giving them all equal weight. It just gets a little bit blobby when you do that. So my vocal processing chain on the lead, again, I don't consider myself a great mixer, and I went really simple on this one. But yeah, so I have some auto-tune, and then I have a EQ. This is the EQ curve I went here. These vocals were recorded by Lizzie on a Rode NT1A, which is a pretty cheap microphone. It's a good microphone, but it's a much more of a budget microphone. And so when you're working with cheaper equipment, you'll find that EQ curves might be a little harsher than they would otherwise be on slightly better equipment in better recording environments, because you never want to rely on processing to get the sound that you desire, but sometimes it is just unfortunately necessary. So yeah, here I've done a harsher cut than I would normally do, around 1500 hertz. And that, again, this depends on the voice you're going for, but thin in the mids and high mids, and then a lot of air, and I did a little boost to give it some presence around 200, and that seemed to sit the best in this mix for me. This is on the lead vocal, at least. Some LA2A compression.
When I fell below and
1 to 2 dB of peak reduction, really not much, but if you take it away, it's mostly I've just added a bunch of gain with it.
when I fell below and...
So yeah, it's just pushing the levels a fair bit with that LA2A sound. Then I have Warmy EP1A, just doing some slight tonal EQ adjustments. So a boost and a cut in the low end. This increases the presence of the vocal and cuts a specific kind of boomy frequency in a lot of voices. Then yeah, a little cut around 5K, getting rid of a bit of tinniness, but not doing anything to the amount of air in the vocal. De-essing, and then lastly there's another EQ in there. This is a weird vocal chain. I don't know why I did it like this. This is my chain. When it comes to the vocal doubles, again, very similar. The LA2A is being pushed a little bit less, so
when I fell below and...
yeah, it's barely even doing any peak reduction, mostly just boosting a bit. And then the big difference is the EQ curve looks quite a lot different, so all the way up to 150 hertz, I have a high pass filter there, and then I'm taking away presence to just let that high end be mostly taken up by one vocal. And yeah, very often, Phoebe Bridgers style vocals are extremely bright and have so much air. So very often I would use something like, if I go to my massive list of plugins, I would use something like Fresh Air, boost it a bit, not that much, probably like this kind of thing. That's a good option if your voice is not naturally as airy, but Lizzie's voice is, so I had no problems with her voice cutting through the mix. Last thing when it comes to this style, harmony layers. Sometimes I was listening when I was working on this project, I was listening to Punisher and Stranger in the Alps over and over again, and it's very common that Phoebe will also put her harmonies right down the middle. It's also very common that she will pan her harmonies. So yeah, in this case, I have opted to pan the harmonies. Yeah, pretty harshly. At least these first two harmony layers are, I mean, the first one is fully hard left and hard right. And I think it just, in the context of this song, it gave it so much more weight when the harmonies did come in. Like you hear it really in these two lines here.
The stains in the carpet, and weed out the mess we don't need.
Yeah, it has so much more weight when the harmony does arrive. I forgot to film a clip for the reverb on the Phoebe one, so I'm just going to do it quickly. You'll be shocked by this. So the vocal lead and the doubles are all being routed to this reverb vocal lead send, which has a 2.5 second decay. And then all of the harmonies are being routed to the reverb vocal backing send, which has a 4-second decay. So it's like basically identical to everything else. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you gained something from that. And just as another reminder, remember you don't have to do one of these 3 things. These are just a way that I've categorized it to make this video easier to structure. You can do any combination of these techniques, and just, you know, when you're working on a song, do some experimentation and find what's working. That's all it takes. But yeah, I'm so excited to create some more awesome videos in this new space, so stay tuned for that, and I will catch you next time. Bye.